And God bless Pastor Ken. Next, Crystal is going to come out and MC our all of our Tennessee legislatures roundtable, which is going to be fantastic. So lots of questions prepared for them. We can bring our guys out. Gary, you want to help them? Here, Crystal, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Thank you so much, Mark, and thanks everybody for being here today. We do have 4 of our elected legislators here today to speak with you about the pressing issues in Tennessee. So please welcome to the stage. We have Jason Zachary, who was elected in 2015, representing District 14 in Knox County. We have Justin Lafferty, who represents District 89, also in Knox County. We have Lowell Russell, elected in 2018 to represent District 89 in Loudoun and Monroe counties. And we have Monty Fritts, elected in 2022 to represent District 32 in Loudoun and Roane counties. So please welcome all of our elected representatives here today. Have a seat, folks. So we just have a few questions that we'd like each one of our elected representatives to answer for us. There's so much going on right now. Who feels like there's issue after issue after issue? Like there's so many important things happening. So we wanted to ask our representatives, with all of these many issues that are impacting the people of Tennessee, what do you think is the most important issue and why? How about we start with Justin, and we'll kind of go around.
Are we working? Yeah, so when I first started running, one of the bigger concerns that I had about our state government and our relationship with our federal government is the fact that about 40% of our state budget gets provided to us by the feds. In the last couple of years, we had an instance where we were asking the federal government for a block grant to help fund our TennCare program here in the state. They held that up until the very last moment before they released the funds to allow us to operate in a block grant kind of form. I won't go into the reasons that we did that, but it's beneficial to Tennesseans because we manage the money better than the feds do. But my concern with all of that, as divisive as we've gotten with our federal government, I don't think it's too far of a stretch to say that there could be in the very near future a time where they are holding that over our heads or just flat out refusing to help us when we need the help that we're looking for. So that's one of my greatest concerns these days in this environment that we occupy.
That's great. Why don't we follow that up and we could just kind of go around this.
Okay, sure. Well, it's good to be with you guys. Thank you guys for being here on this nasty day. Just the proud and the few, so thank you for being here. And thank you to Tracy and her team for putting this together. So, I mean, on a national level, there's so many directions we could go. Pastor Ken was talking about life and how the Democratic Party literally is running on their passion to kill babies in the womb. And that is disgusting and despicable. And thankfully, that's somewhat of a settled issue here in Tennessee. We have the strongest pro-life piece of legislation that we passed in 2019. We eliminated all elective abortions. The only exception we have is for the life of the mother. So that's an issue that we've settled in Tennessee. But kind of to what Justin was talking about, I was able to serve 2 terms under Governor Haslam, and we used to talk about the relationship with the federal government, and they were an unreliable partner. Well, in the 2 terms that we've served under Governor Lee, they've become an adversarial partner. And so we have taken steps to try to firewall ourselves from the destructive policies from the federal government. We've done a pretty good job of that. But I think for us, it's hard to say what is the biggest issue because the reality is so much of it hinges on the election. And so if President Trump wins, which that looks really good, and hopefully that's going to happen, I think states like ours are going to be a springboard for the conservative agenda related to energy, related to illegal immigration, so many things that we will be able to partner with the federal government on to take our state to the next level, because we already have one of the best run states in the country. But God forbid if Kamala Harris wins, I think we are going to have to push the constitutional bounds of what we look at in legislation we pass to protect the people of Tennessee. And I think the biggest issue, depending on how that election goes, could be illegal immigration, because we will have to take that upon ourselves as a state to try to protect ourselves, because illegal immigration, according to FAIR, cost our state $791 million a year. I mean, it is a significant issue. And so those are steps we will probably have to take. So much of it depends on the election, but I can promise you from our perspective, a balanced budget, a strong conservative agenda, protecting children, that's always going to be a priority.
Monty?
Let's let Lowell go. I'm the junior guy, so let's let him go.
I want to thank everybody that put this Freedom Fest on and all those that are in attendance today. The most important piece of legislation that's going to come through 2025 is going to be the budget, because no matter what we do is going to be funded from that budget. And to protect your individual liberties, or to pave your roads, or to protect against illegal immigration, we've got to be able to fund the policies and the bills and legislation so we can do all that for you. And communication is another important topic as far as us as legislators. We need you to communicate with us to let us know what you're thinking so we can take those values and ideas that you got and put it into law. So thank you.
That's great. Monty, what are your thoughts?
Hey, thank you again, as Lowell just said, for coming out in the rain today. I want to pause before I answer the most important. We have neighbors in northeast Tennessee right now that their houses were washed down the roads, that they are isolated from the rest of the state because the roads have been torn up. So y'all that are believers out there, be praying for those people. They're hurting right now, I can promise you. I talked to some of them yesterday, and we need to be lifting up prayers for help there. I just left Rockwood. I was in an armory yesterday in Middle Tennessee in Gordonsville, where some of the ranking NCOs had worked for me in Iraq in 04 and 05. And so I wanted to go out and help send them off and speak to them. I was in Rockwood yesterday. Let me tell you what happened in Rockwood this morning. I had to change clothes. I got so wet standing out as that entire troop of armored cavalrymen marched down the street in Rockwood, Tennessee, singing "She Wore a Yellow Ribbon." And that's Tennessee. They're the best of us. And so one of our first problems is we have a rogue national government that has forgotten those men and women. We have a government and idiots in office that have decided it's okay to kill 3 of them by a dishonorable withdrawal in Afghanistan a few years ago, and we cannot work with those people. I know this sounds radical to some of y'all, and I'll go ahead and apologize, but I'll just tell you, when I look at the things that we face today, there's a level of inaction even in Tennessee that you should be upset with me about, because we've not done enough. I think illegals and what's happened at our border is probably one of the greatest tragedies that has ever hit the United States, other than the sex slavery that's occurring at the border and involvement in trafficking those human beings that the Biden-Harris administration has allowed to take place, to the fact that they're trying to economically destroy us by colonizing the United States with people from all over this world. I've been to the border in Texas. I can tell you that the number 2 language that they needed to speak in McAllen, Texas, a year and a half ago was Mandarin Chinese, to be able to process those coming across the border. And so we passed some legislation. I took some of that on this year, but these men voted for it. We got some of that passed. We tried to put stiff penalties in. I don't want those criminal illegals in the state of Tennessee. I don't know how else to say that. And I want to make it just as hard on them as we possibly can so they don't come to my state. We passed legislation, House Bill 2190, that would allow the governor the authority to send up to a brigade-sized force to help Texas repel the invasion. Article 3, Section 5 of the Tennessee Constitution lays out clearly that that's something that we should do. I don't think we've seen anybody. I'm not sure what's up with that. I've asked the question and can't get an answer, to be honest with you. This will get me in the political doghouse, I'm sure. But every one of you all will be writing Governor Bill Lee and ask him why he hadn't done nothing about that. Every single one of you.
Thank you, Monty.
I'm not done. I'm not done. There's some other stuff. Pardon me, I'm not being rude. There are many other things that we need to take place. I would offer you these quick things. Other than the illegal immigration and the fact that we have done nothing with that House Bill 2190 that we passed and funded. We had a question, Governor Lee, and I'm not here to bash our governor. I love him. But he works for us. And he was asked a question in Roane County a few weeks ago when we announced the uranium facility, what he would do to protect Tennesseans against the radical policies of a Harris-Walz administration. I'll let you go to the paper and find the answer, but I found it disappointing. I will tell you this. We need to, and this goes to my answer, and I'm sorry for being so windy. I apologize to my colleagues here. States' rights is the most important thing we must take on. From the budget and how we manage it and those dollars that Justin talked about, we should be appropriating every one of them. They shouldn't be in grants, and they shouldn't have some string on them so that we have to let our little boys use little girls' bathrooms to get our dollars from Washington, D.C. And we're going to have to, pardon the phrase, grow a set and stand up on that stuff. So that's what I think.
Thank you, Monty. Well, I think Monty's already kind of approached some of the issues that I want to talk about in our next question. And I see we have Elaine Davis with us.
Come on.
Thank you so much, Elaine, for joining us. I'm so glad that you came. Elaine Davis, ladies and gentlemen, first elected in 2022, representing District 18. So I'm very glad that you are
Couldn't find my
here.
glasses this morning. I have to have them to drive, unfortunately. Sorry about that.
Well, you know what? Maybe we can, the other folks answered the first question, so maybe I'll ask you.
Oh, we're still on the first question?
We have so many issues impacting Tennessee, and what we're wondering is what you think is the most important issue that's impacting Tennessee and why.
Well, one of the pieces of legislation that I passed last year was codifying public comment at governmental meetings. And so protecting our freedom of speech is a huge and important issue. When we have parents that aren't able to go and address their school boards and talk to their government about how their children are being taught in the schools, the materials that are presented to them, one of the things I'm grateful for is we passed parental rights as well. The government doesn't parent our children, we do. And so it's important that we protect those freedoms and protect those rights. But you, Monty, who's next? Okay.
Thank you, I appreciate that. So we're going to turn our attention to the next question. Now, I think it's been touched on a little bit, but we want to look at the next legislative session, which will be starting in January, and we want to talk about specific legislation. TCGC had a team that was focused on what legislation was passing, what legislation was not passing in the last session. And so we know that there are some bills that didn't make it last year. Maybe some of those bills we can kind of work together and get those bills passed this year. So what we're interested in finding out from our representatives here is what is your top priority legislation that you want to pass that will help the citizens in your district? So what do we want to think about? What is the top legislation we want to pass? And maybe this time, Jason, we can start with you.
Sure. Yeah. So the preface it with this, because I'm going into, hopefully if I win re-election, it'll be my 6th term. So anytime you're in an election year, it is a little uncomfortable to talk about policy that you'll bring in the next session because you got to get re-elected first. So let me first preface it with that. Assuming I'm re-elected, 2 priorities. One, as I've already touched on, is illegal immigration. So I've been working with for Alliance for Defending Freedom, Wall Builders, and American First Policy Institute, which is President Trump's think tank, talking about 2 different approaches to illegal immigration. As I just mentioned, one is what happened if President Trump wins, and then what does that look like from a state perspective? But again, God forbid, if Harris wins, what do we need to do to firewall our state? So it's 2 completely different approaches. So we have some of the best think tanks in the country working with us. I've already talked to the Attorney General. They're working on something specific. That one specific I've got is related to remittances. When an illegal's here and they send money back, we've got to tax and put fees on that to make it harder. So again, there's no incentive for them to be here to send money back. So that's just one thing. But Monty touched on this a minute ago. A couple of weeks ago, we had the largest economic development announcement in the history of our state with Irano. They're investing $6 billion billion in Anderson County to build the largest uranium enrichment plant in North America. So because of TVA, which positives and negatives, TVA, government, federal government, quasi-probe subsidy, anyway, it is important that they're here and the opportunity it gives us to take advantage of this new nuclear renaissance that we're about to embark on. And Monty, again, is much more qualified to speak about this than me. I mean, we're going to have the first small modular reactor at the Clinch River. I talked to TVA about that Thursday. That hopefully, once we get building done, will be about 30 years. That will be built to helpfully power the plant. We have to find alternative ways to grow our energy sources. Nuclear will do that. 43% of the state's energy comes from nuclear now. And so Tennessee will be the hub for nuclear energy. We hope to have the supply chains brought here into our rural communities. Tennessee, Roane State, they have nuclear engineering programs that will be able to bring that workforce forward. So that is going to, no matter who wins, that is going to be a top priority. I'm working at legislation right now. I've already talked to the governor I'm on finance about appropriating dollars for us to be able to partner and further the educational outcomes for our nuclear programs. So those two things will definitely be the priorities for me.
Representative Elaine,
Oh, me?
what are your thoughts on a key piece of legislation that you really want to work on next year?
One of the things that got me involved in politics is I have a son who has a chronic illness. He has type 1 diabetes. And so I have been working to try to make sure that there's a nurse in every school. And that's something that has always been a priority for me. I feel it's important to make sure that we have professionals there that can respond in an emergent situation, and then also have the ability to make sure that our students are focused on being a student, that their health needs and their medical needs are not left to chance, and that they can fill that gap of care. So that's something that's critical to me, that's very important to me. Just like Jason said, we all want to make sure that we're having conservative people return to the legislature. We're elected, our term is 2-year terms, so we're constantly having to essentially campaign. So the issues that are important to you, that we carry for you, we're constantly making sure that we're doing what's right for the people, because we know that those are what are important to you as well. And that is one thing with regard to our health and having those healthcare freedoms. Those are some things that we put into the legislature last year with regard to vaccinations and making sure that you made those choices. And that's something I want to protect as well. I'm pro-life, and I'm not ashamed to say that I am not for the exceptions of rape and incest. And I don't want to see those move forward at the legislative level. So in a lot of cases, it is about things that we want to see move forward, but sometimes it's about making sure that we don't allow other things to move forward as well. So those are protections and priorities that I'd like to see.
Thank you. I just wanted to maybe follow up on that briefly, because when TCGC was tracking legislation last year, we had a list, and it said, call your representative to vote yes on this issue, or call your representative to vote no on this issue. It's very important, as we were saying, to keep the bad legislation out equally with letting good legislation in. So thank you for that. Representative Monty, I'm not sure if you've already covered your priority, but
yeah, I'm
if you
sorry,
have
I got so wound up, but I will cover a couple things for next year. I really think, in light of what I plan to carry next year, we find ourselves in a great battle between a secular humanist approach in government and between what our founders understood as a creationist view of this world and our rights. And so everything that I carry, I want to try to filter it through that lens. I think we should be thinking as our founders did in a creationist worldview. The secular humanists want to contaminate our skies with chemicals. They want to force you with what you need to eat and tell you what kind of car you want to drive and all that kind of stuff. So states' rights and our ability to resolve criminally illegal, I said it, edicts that come down from the federal government when dollars come down. We need a process to be where we officially interpose between you, the citizen, and those crazy requests that come down from the federal government. That interpositioning is part of our responsibility. English law has considered that for a long time. We've gotten away from it. Sometimes not these good folks on the stage here with me, but many in Nashville have decided that you and I are peasants and they get to decide what we do, and that's a secular humanist view. We have to oppose that. We absolutely have to oppose that. And that gets into the abortion thing. You know, these leftists, these crazed communists that call themselves Democrats today, they can't wait to murder babies. They had an abortion clinic on wheels, a Winnebago abortion clinic outside their Democrat National Convention. I'm just thankful that both of the Justins went up there and got their vasectomies, hopefully, so that they can't further pollute the world with their ideologies, because I understand they were doing vasectomies too. No, not this Justin. Justin Jones and Justin Pearson. Yeah. He's fully literate and fertile, as far as I know. So, yeah. So states' rights, and to bring in a nullification process that Representative Hulsey's been trying to do for some time, I think is absolutely important for us. People get all freaked out. I've already broke the ice, haven't I? We have, hey, we're just folks here. It's okay to laugh. Yeah, it's okay to laugh.
And I think that we have as one of our sponsors here today, Tennessee Citizens for State Sovereignty, and that is their big issue, is the nullification issue. So welcome and thank you.
I know I've been so windy with my answers, but you invited me. I would say that states' rights is important. We have both Harris and how we could say we were going to work with a Harris-Walz administration that people in Nashville are saying is foreign to me. With all the things that we know that they stand for, they hate our nation, they hate us, they hate God. And I can't work with that. I've got to fight them at every intersect. That's my responsibility to do that. That's each of these good men and women, I know they do that. And they may not say it the same way I do, but I get to watch them work in Nashville. These are good Tennesseans.
Thank you.
And so last thing on that, I know I'm spending a lot of time.
I'm skipping you at the next question.
Okay. I won't come back to the next one then. We have to have full constitutional carry in the state of Tennessee. We don't have that today. People who walk around under the protection of armed men and women are saying they don't trust you with a firearm. Let that sink in.
All right, so I think we're going to go to Lowell. So you can talk to us about what specific kind of legislation you're interested in passing in this next session.
Thank you. There's usually 1,500 bills filed every year in the legislature. About 400 to 500 of them passes. That sounds like a lot, but some of the bills are just simply changing a word here or there, correcting a mistake that was made before in previous law, or naming a bridge or road after somebody. So my legislation I would like to look at is voter integrity. I think we're going to have to make sure that non-residents are going to have to be printed on the license better. The election workers are going to have to be trained a little bit better to determine if somebody's legally allowed to vote in our elections or not. I'd like to speed up the death penalty for first-degree murders. I passed a bill last year that would execute people in 30 business days if they kill a law enforcement officer, first responder, kill a mass amount of people, or if they kill anybody on school grounds. But unfortunately, there's a long process on the appeal process, so we got to shorten that if we can. And other than that, I think we need to look at taking school K through 12 and teaching our kids how to interact with each other except for using electronic devices. So maybe do some sort of law that requires K through 12 to teach 4 or 8 hours of social interactions that's without a electronic device. So thank you.
That's great. Representative Justin, what are your thoughts about the next legislative session?
We got people up here cutting up. My apologies. And you started it. One of the things that I'd like to see, like to try and make some ground, cover a little ground on, it's not going to be easy. We've got a number of states around us and around the country that have started putting reforms into place on our university systems, or on their university systems. One of those is limiting teacher tenure. No longer does a professor need to have a lifelong paycheck because they were able to get hired at some point in their life. Along with that, we've allegedly made efforts at ending DEI on our college campuses, and I'm here to tell you that it is still going on. It is still practiced. Different name. It is just in my backyard. We've got a professor at one of the schools close to me that can't tell you what a woman is, but yet he's teaching our kids, and we're subsidizing him. We're helping to pay his paycheck. We've also got a professor that is advocating to his students that we abolish the Electoral College. And I don't want to get into how that works, but those of you that know how that works know exactly why we have to have something like that in this republic that we still have today. Those are the kinds of things I like to address. It is not going to be an easy lift. We have got taxpayer-funded lobbyists that work for all of our institutions. They work for their interests, not for yours. That's where we come in, and that's the kind of thing that I'm hoping to start to move the ball on, at least get the conversation going.
Thank you so much. I know I just said that I wasn't going to call on Representative Fritts, but you actually had something very special that happened. You led the passage of a resolution to designate the month of July as a time of prayer and fasting in our state. And I know that you traveled around the state, praying with people in every county. And we wanted to hear a little bit about your experiences as you did that and went around our great state.
Yes, and I do apologize for being so windy. I'm fired up this morning. I just watched a troop of soldiers go off to war, and it fires me up. And let me first say about a resolution for prayer and fasting. Without these good folks sitting here next to me and their leadership, we wouldn't have got that passed, right? And then I think God worked on the hearts of people to get it passed. Like most things in life, most things that require effort require somebody to say, come on, follow me, let's go do this. And I had not intended that. I started this prayer resolution. Some of y'all have heard at our rallies. I visited all 95 counties in the 32 days of July. Yes, I am a public school student. I understand there's not 32 days in July. But we started a little bit early. And we saw crowds of handfuls to crowds of hundreds of people come out in rain and pouring rain. I saw the dear Janice Boland, who I think is a great public servant, standing with her arms lifted up as we're getting rain down in I think Coffee County, and just praising God. It goes back to my secular humanist versus our founders' creationist worldview. If we do not repent as a nation, I don't know how many of y'all are Christians, but I will tell you, folks, if we don't repent as a nation, as Christians in a nation, and seek God's mercy, we're done for. Because we have a 360-degree attack of evil upon our families, our children, our rights. And so to get to travel through the state, I did not intend to do that. I wrote the document, the first page, to be an assessment of what I would call leading indicators of God pulling his hand of blessing off Tennessee. And the second page I wrote to be just as politically incorrect as I possibly could. When we declare that God is creator and king of all glory with the authority to both bless and judge nations or states, those politicians that want to say they want to make you free or they want to give you this right or that right, it was intended to offend them. That was the genesis of me writing that. Your rights come from God. They do not come from your state representative. They don't come from your governor or your president. They come from God Almighty. And so we just tried to build that up. We've kind of started something, I think, with that. Tennessee, as it should be, has started something there. And so that'll be one of the pieces of legislation I carry next year. I want to make every July a time of prayer and fasting in the state of Tennessee.
Yeah, we just wanted to check in maybe with the other representatives here to see like how your faith shapes your decisions. That you see a lot of legislation, right? There's things that you decide that you want to sponsor. How does your faith shape how you work as a legislator? And you can go ahead.
One of the first things it does is it guards my tongue. And it, because so a lot of times when I'm quiet or I'm silent, that's because I'm intentionally keeping my mouth shut, because if I said everything that I wanted to, I would be on my knees all day long asking for forgiveness. But I really have to emphasize how important it was what Representative Fritts did. This resolution for prayer and fasting was such a blessing for me, for others in our community, for our state, and the anointing that he has put on our state is huge. And I hope that we realize and recognize what a step in faith he did, bringing that forward amongst a very antagonistic and malicious, in my opinion. Okay, I'm trying to guard my tongue again, Lord. The people across the aisle, I guess is the best way to phrase that. And God loved his heart and his spirit and his fight. And there are so many times that I was so grateful to hear his words. They lifted me up and they reassured me that I was in the right place, that God had put me where he needed me to be, to serve at this time, that we are standing in the gap, that we are fighting for him and seeking his face. And one of the things that I remember, I do a Bible study, and there was a lady from South Africa. And one of the things, she was very early Christian, right? But she said something that was so beautiful and so poignant. She said, sunflowers, they follow the sun all throughout the day. They turn their face to the sun. And she said, that is my prayer for all of us, that we are constantly seeking his face. And so anytime, isn't that beautiful? And so whenever I try to research legislation or listen to my fellow legislators and vote on issues that are important to you and to our state, that's the first question I always try to ask myself. Who am I trying to please? Is this to glorify him or is it to glorify man? And so that is my ask for you, is that you pray for us, that you strengthen us and you shore us up and build us up, that is who we are always seeking, his approval, not man's.
Thank you.
So good.
Sounds like we're going this way this time.
Sure.
So go ahead.
The only reason I ran for office is that the Lord clearly called me to run. Back in 2011, 12, 13, he started working my heart to run for public office, and I kind of went in reverse order. In 2014, he called me to run for Congress, which is crazy because I'd never held public office before. And so the Lord just, long story short, through that journey, there are people, Doug Dutton, Kevin Desmond, there are people here that actually supported me, surprisingly, when I primaried Congressman Duncan. He'd been there 26 years. The Lord called me to run, so I ran. Didn't win, but the Lord had other plans for me and clearly called me to run for this office when the representative stepped down. And so I'm very open about my walk because, again, it informs everything I do. My relationship with Christ is the most important thing in my life, and it informs every decision I make. And so the cool thing about being open about your faith in this role is it doesn't surprise people when you make decisions, because people know when I talk about why are you pro-life, and you quote Jeremiah 1:5, and you talk about the value of life, there's no argument. They can't argue when you're talking about my faith doesn't give me an option. I am pro-life because my Lord commands me to be. And so to be able to walk in that, it actually does provide freedom because I don't have to defend my views or my thoughts. I can put that on him and he can handle it. And so one thing that's something that I think is very cool too, early on when I was first elected, people would say, well, what surprises you most about serving in the legislature? My response would always be the people who just love Jesus. I mean, because in the South, we're in the Bible Belt. Everybody loves to play the God card. But man, we serve with some from members in this legislature that love Jesus. I mean, we pray in our caucus meetings. I mean, groups of us will gather for certain things like, Lord, we need wisdom and direction. So that goes on all the time. And I mean, and to be really transparent, Governor Haslam, he loved Jesus. I heard that man pray. I mean, love the Lord. Governor Lee loves Jesus. And so I think the Lord blesses our state because of that. We're not perfect. We make mistakes all the time, and we go around, and you guys could tell us what mistakes we've made, and we'd probably be there right there with you. But man, we do it well, and I really think the Lord honors our efforts, and we give him the glory for it. And kind of what Elaine said, when you're working for an audience of one, it really does take the pressure off.
Justin, what are your thoughts?
I'm just going to make a little story of my political journey in my relation to my Lord and Savior. The first time my wife and I actually started having the conversation about doing this, a lot of uncertainty, as everybody up here knows. It's easy to get attacked doing what we do. There's a reason that good people stay away from this business, because it is ugly. We showed up at church one Sunday, and I'll be a son of a gun. The preacher was talking about the burning bush, and his question during the sermon was, how many people walked by that bush before anybody actually stopped and did something? When that came out of his mouth, I sank back and thought, he's talking to me. As the journey went on, we still hadn't completely committed. We'd gone down to the mountains, doing a little trail hiking. I got away from my family a little bit, wanted a little quiet time, found a little stump to sit on. The wife was pretty well on board. I was still concerned about what this was going to mean to my family, my relations with friends, the other consequences of doing this. While I was sitting there thinking about this, I can only describe it as a blanket of comfort that fell over me, and I was at peace. And at that moment on, I knew what I was committed to. I knew what I was getting into, and I knew that he had my back. Twice since I've been in Nashville, the people that can't tell the truth, one a politician, one a reporter, have made efforts to cancel me. And that wasn't what they set it off to do when they sent out their lying little tweets, but that was the result. I have spent each occasion 48 to 72 hours of my life, people trying to make it a living hell. And you know what? It only made me stronger, because it brought out my supporters. The people that heard about it said, we knew that they were lying from the get-go because we know you, and I can only credit that to one thing. Thank you.
That was great. Lowell?
I want to thank Monty for sponsoring this and all the members that supported it. I'm a member of First Baptist Church down in Madisonville, and I'll tell you what this resolution did for me. As I stood on the courthouse lawn in Loudoun County and Monroe County, it took me back to memory lane when I grew up in church. My mom and dad would take me to Piney Level up in Blount County, and it reminded me as I was growing up, when I was growing up in a time that we believed in God. It seemed like a lot more than what we do now. A time that we stood for the national anthem and put our hands over our hearts for the Pledge of Allegiance. And we prayed not only at church, but we prayed at home and we prayed at school. That's what we did. And I think that the way this trajectory that our nation's on is only going to change until we get back to those morals and values that was in this resolution. So, Monty, thank you for that.
Well, that was great. We do appreciate it. What we'd like to do is ask a final question of our panelists here, because everybody who's here, are we the dedicated patriots? I mean, we are the people who care about this stuff. We are out here in this rain just to listen and learn something from all of our vendors that are out here. So we want to talk a little bit about citizen action, right? We want to say, what advice would you give to people like us who want us to move Tennessee in a better direction, right? Is there some way we can kind of steer ourselves to improve things in Tennessee? What is it that we should be doing as citizens to help Tennessee move in a better direction? And how about we start with Lowell, because he's been we could start and kind of go back that direction
But
again.
thank you again for having us here today, and thank you all for attending. The best thing that I can tell you to do is to have your voice heard through your representative. If I represent you, feel free to email me, call me, Facebook me, whatever you have to do. If you see me in the grocery store, let me know what you're thinking. Just, it's important to show up to events like the Freedom Fest, but you've got to have your voice heard in Nashville, and we can only do that by good communication. So keep up doing what you're doing, and I'll work as hard as I can in Nashville for you. So thank you.
Go ahead.
Yeah, everybody knows the election's November 5th, right? It doesn't stop then, all right? We've got an opponent. Well, I'll focus on the famous ones. I'll just focus on the Tennessee Three. No jobs, no children, nothing else to do except for figure out how to rule over you, all right? When the November 5th election is done for, hopefully we get to take a celebration lap. Let that settle in for a day or two, and then don't forget why you're out here today. We have got to get the folks that are on the sidelines back involved. I was in a subdivision just a couple of days ago. I walked by, I can't tell you how many houses that had "Don't Tread on Me" flags and or bumper stickers, that had earth movers, small bobcats. But these are working men and women. Nowhere to be found on my voter registration list that I'm working on. I guarantee you those guys don't want Kamala Harris in the White House. We've got to just, and it doesn't have to be an all-out sprint all the time, but don't lay it down and walk away from it for too long. Win in where you can, plug in, help out, and see who you can move, because you never know who you touch with your words.
Yeah,
Thank
that's
you.
good, Justin. So as a reminder, on the election, early voting is October 16th through October 31st. Make sure you vote. Make sure you're grabbing people, taking them to the polls. If you're in Knox County, there's 12 early voting locations. For those of us who are deep west, Steinmart is going to be the new early voting place for Farragut, so make sure you go there to vote. I don't know where it is at Loudoun County, but look on the election commission. And remember, during the early election period, you can vote anywhere in the county. So just make sure you vote. Make sure you grab people to vote, because it does matter. It does make a difference. And then one last thing is, so Elaine's sitting here. For those of us in Knox County, all the rest of the Republican reps in Knox County are plus 25 or plus 30 districts. Elaine is not. Hers is by far the closest district. So if you feel so inclined, Elaine Davis, she can give you her website. She needs support. She needs your money. She is running against a radical Democrat. The battle has already started. Dems are trying to take one seat in West Knox County, and it's hers. We can't let them have that seat. That is a big deal. That impacts Knox County, Loudoun County, Blount County. We cannot give them any momentum. Many of you know the name Gloria Johnson. She's running against Marsha Blackburn for U.S. Senate. The night after the August election, she put out a tweet that said, it's not a matter of if, but when Knox County goes blue. That is not going to happen. We cannot let that happen. So, and I know I'm talking to a few Knox County people that are here, but if you're in Loudoun County, Elaine Davis needs your money. She needs your support, because she has got a 6-figure battle on her hands. So please consider going to her website and donating for her. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Justin, and I think you bring up an important point. There are people who live in Tennessee who just say, this is a safe red state. I don't need to do anything. Everybody else is going to do something, right? That is exactly the wrong attitude. We have had people not get into office who should be there by a handful of votes, by less than 10 votes. Every one of those votes matter. Don't let them keep you home. That's one of the good reasons to get out and vote early, because then if you have, some bad weather on election day, you know that you already voted. So please make a point of going yourself, make a point of bringing some friends with you to make sure that you get out there and vote in this election. Go ahead, Elaine.
Jason makes a good point. We have national money coming into our races. The national DNC is targeting Tennessee. Act Blue, all of these little micro donations that are coming in, they know that California is taken care of, New York's taken care of. So they're coming for our conservative states. We had Governor Lee here the other day for our chamber breakfast, and one of the things that he pointed out was that in 90 out of 95 of our counties, we have an increase in people coming into our state. the majority of those are conservative. So we know that people are coming here because of our values, because of our fiscal responsibility, because we protect our freedoms and our rights. And they are gravitating to our state because of those things. So we need to protect and preserve those. I do want to say, as an individual, one of the people that you should probably emulate is Patty Jean King over here. Patty, raise your hand. She is wonderful. She is someone that is actively working hard to protect our elections and our voting integrity. So she's training people to be poll watchers, to be poll workers. She's going around to different club meetings to educate people on the process of how voting works. And those are some things that we can do. If we don't have money, we have time. If we don't have time, grab one of your friends and drive them to the polls. Anything that you can do at a small level helps all of us and benefits all of us. Oh, sorry, my website.
Donate money.
Okay, it's electelainedavis.com. And I would definitely appreciate that. There's a little link on there if you want to just, even $5. It helps because it shows that people in Tennessee value our Tennessee representatives, that we don't have people in San Francisco supporting us. It's Tennesseans.
Amen.
God bless you. Thank you for having me.
I would just ask you to go read Ezekiel 33, verses 1 through 6. And then read the entire chapter of Ezekiel 34. And my challenge to you then for Ezekiel 33, in that you'll see that the Lord speaking to the prophet, and he says, if you pick a man out, well, that's us. So hold your political workers accountable, right? And come visit. There will be every blue-haired cross-dresser you can imagine in Cordell Hall building in about 3 months. And they'll be screaming and booing and hissing, trying to take your rights away from you. You're going to have to show up there and come and visit the offices and let your representative know. Write letters, chain email things are okay, but use your own words. It doesn't have to be perfectly articulate. Just say what's important to you and tell us how you want us to go. Constitutional things, I'm going to stick with what the Constitution says, but we need you reinforcing that. Not everybody in Nashville is as stalwart as these good folks I sit next to. And so read those 2 chapters and see what the public servant, the watchman on the wall, these are your watchmen on the wall. And we've called out several things to be cautioned about. Number 2 is Ezekiel 34. And that's the responsibility of the priests and the pastors. You need to have a heart-to-heart conversation with your pastors and your deacons or your priests. Tell them to get off that sugar-coated message and preach the truth. That photograph of that little baby right over there that I see on that booth, we need to be talking about what the Democrats want to do to little children. We need to. We need to talk about the fact that they want to come in your house and take your guns and treat you like a slave. That's right. And your pastors need to put that out. I'll echo what Pastor Ken was saying just a minute ago. That should be the freest, most liberated, most straightforward hour and a half you spend every week. And maybe we can pull a little DNA out of old Ken and inject it in some of these around here. So, hey, I love y'all. I'm sorry if I sounded harsh about anything. I appreciate that you let a country boy come out here. And let me reinforce, if you got $100 or $500 or $5, you need to send it to Elaine Davis. She needs help. See y'all.
That is great. So thank you. And I just want to thank all our legislators for coming out today. We need to support them in their elections. We need to support them in the upcoming legislative session. So thank you all. Appreciate you coming out.
Thank you.